And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. It's Tom, Erika, and Josh. And usually we've been putting more good news in the show. I'm happy to say it's up top this week. There was
Yes.
some fantastic numbers released by the French bishops. But the most interesting part, it's in my cohort. It's in Gen Z. We've been seeing some crazy adult baptism numbers coming into Easter this year. So we're going to have tons of fun talking about that. But of course, multi-variety show. Erika, what else are we talking about today?
Yep. So once again, tariffs are hot or not. So we're going to talk about updates on the trade war with China. So yes, more of that. And then the SAVE Act. Is it true that I will never vote again because I am a woman who cannot prove I'm a U.S. citizen? We will find out what's actually going on with the SAVE Act. And then some great Twilight Zone material today, I have to say. We're going to travel down into Mexico, Central America. We're going to travel north to Scotland, Ireland. It's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Shout out all the Irish. Rory McIlroy with a
Yes.
thrilling victory for those who took a nap and enjoyed the Masters like me. It was phenomenal. And yeah, Eric Swalwell did say that women will not be able to vote, so it must be true.
Probably.
But I don't want to get into any of that because I'm excited to talk about some good news here. So specifically, we're looking at, Holy Week coming up, of course, as Catholics is the most exciting time of the year. And one of my favorite parts of Holy Week, genuinely, if you go to the Easter Vigil, is watching new Catholics come into the church. And it makes me strangely emotional. I was a cradle Catholic. I did not convert as an adult, but I've had the pleasure of seeing some friends, especially when I was in college, come into the church. And it's just, there's nothing like it. And so we're seeing this coming out of France here, and I'll share the article. Shout out to CNA. France sets record number of adult baptisms among the youth. So specifically when we're talking numbers, there were more than 10,384 adult catechumens in Easter this year. This is marking a 45% increase from 2024 figures, and this data was released by the French Bishops' Conference. So the French report reveals the highest numbers ever recorded since the survey began over 20 years ago. Even more striking, this demographic shift. Young adults now constitute the largest segment of converts. So we're talking about this 18 to 25-year-old group. We're composed of mostly students and young professionals, now represent 42% of adult catechumens, surpassing the 26 to 40 demographic that had historically dominated conversion statistics. Now, most notable is this 10-year trajectory that they're pointing out. France has witnessed adult baptisms more than doubling since 2015, when only 3,900 adults received the sacrament compared to this year's 10,391. This is 160% growth over the decade.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I love to hear it.
Including, well, not in France, but here in the United States, Odysseus in the chat getting baptized this Easter Vigil.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
All
congratulations, Odysseus. This is awesome.
Someone said Aslan on the move.
Aslan is on the move. That's a good one. I like that.
Oh,
this is great. This is such encouraging news. And we talked last week about some of the numbers coming out of the United Kingdom as well, that Catholics in that youngest demographic now outnumber Anglicans 2-1, right? Gen Z coming back for it. We're going to take back Canterbury Cathedral. But I think for me, one of the most exciting things about these stories, other than just salvation of souls, I mean, hands down, is that these are countries that my whole life, religion, and specifically Orthodox Catholicism, Orthodox Christianity, have been in retreat, if not just like total white flag surrender. It's felt like to atheistic secularism, materialism, all the things Pope John Paul II was warning us about when the EU was, getting rid of mentions to Christianity and all of its charters. And of course, the influx of radical Islam through mass migration into Europe. So to see these numbers, you're like, whoa, there's signs of hope, signs of spring going on over there.
Can I ask you, Erika, you specifically said that it was kind of fashionable at the time. I think of like the new atheism movement, maybe like Sam Harris or things like that. Was that actually... I just feel as Gen Z, that was never a part of the conversation. Like at the point where I was really coming about, it was always kind of cringe. And like, it was like Reddit tier life advice. It's like no one actually took it seriously. But I guess at one point it was kind of a thing.
Well, I think that the new atheism was sort of the popular, the headliner, what you would hear on CNN or CBS or like the dumb talk shows, for something much deeper that is very real and continues to be very real. The turning, this atheistic humanism, the turning away from the tradition that's really been going on, since the Enlightenment, but really ramped up in the 20th century after the wars and the terrible destruction in Europe and all the deaths of despair that came out of that. So I think New Atheism was sort of the popcorn version of a very real, very insidious falling away from Christianity that's been going on through the centuries. And this here, though, like, looks like, is there a turnaround? Is it a blip on the screen? We'll find out. But hey, I'll take a blip. This is good news.
Absolutely.
Well, and you've got this large pool of the church. We're all sort of together for a while, and and solid. And then I feel like a lot of the Catholics throughout the world have kind of drifted towards what the culture is, and then a smaller subset is more active in their faith, and they're trying to evangelize, and they're growing. And so the external numbers might be looking like they're on an overall decline over the last few decades. We talked about recently how it's kind of like plateaued, at least. Well, that's nice. But then this core, which is much more orthodox, more faithful, more animated by their faith, this segment seems to be growing. And so you could, if these trend lines continue, you could face the same situation that you see in the Jewish church, where secular Jews just have stopped going, to services, and what was it? Alan Dershowitz said, boy, in 100 years, the only Jews will be Orthodox Jews, because they're the only ones that are going, and they're having more children. And so these trend lines could continue. But again, the converts, that's great. So then that's a more attractive message. People are more interested in that than just sort of run of the mill. I'm just here on a happy, nice Sunday, St. Bingo's,
Certainly.
They're responding to something more real.
Yeah. Speaking of Orthodox and faithful, happy to talk about University of Dallas today. College is a place where you absolutely can have this type of conversion or reversion. So in a world where people can often feel alone, like nothing really matters, the University of Dallas is different. It's a place where students build strong friendships, grow in their faith, and work hard to learn important things, all while searching for truth, wisdom, and goodness. University of Dallas alumnus Brian Birch is responding to this quest in an extraordinary way. Donald Trump has nominated him to be the ambassador to the Holy See. The University of Dallas applauds Brian for his personal witness, advocacy, and the great work he has been called to do. As University of Dallas President Jonathan J. Sanford stated, Brian is a man of deep Catholic faith, strong character, and genuine prudence. We could not be prouder of him. Learn more about Brian's alma mater, the University of Dallas, and join Brian's fellow alumni who are praying for him during his ongoing nomination process by clicking the link in the description below. We'll also throw it in the chat. Thank you, Rosie. And thank you to the University of Dallas for sponsoring this episode.
Yeah, thanks.
They're a good Catholic school because they said alumnus. They actually get the Latin right.
They got the Latin right. I love it.
Schools are like, alumni, he's not plural. What are you talking about?
It's just one. He uses they, them pronouns, I guess, if he's an alumni.
There was
alumnus. Right. They got it right. They got it correct.
Yeah, I took 2 years of Latin in my Newman Guy Catholic school. Not the flex, but I throw it around every once in a while. Go ahead, Erika.
Have a little Latin. I was just going to say 2 more points about the France numbers, the France and the UK numbers there. I would like to, these numbers just came out over the weekend, so it's going to be really interesting to drill down into them and to see where the conversions are coming from. So are these is Islamic people who are converting? Are they kids coming from atheistic secularist households? And then the second point is, I'm really interested to get Josh's take on the connection. Is there a connection here between the resurgence of populism over in Europe that we're seeing and here in the United States, and this return to more traditional Christian churches like this? So what do you think?
Well, it's interesting because if you look at the countries in the West that have more of an appreciation for the traditional Latin Mass, the 2 countries that come to mind actually are the United States,
big time,
and France. Actually, France has got a big devotion to the traditional Latin Mass. I think, there's a lot of people in this day and age, the last 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, who think that politics is unseemly and, oh gosh, I wish we could just focus on evangelizing, trying to win a soul to Christ for eternity. That's more important. It's like, obviously, it's more important to win a soul over for eternity. Like, no one is disputing this. But is it possible in the discussion of other things, whether it's science or sports, recreation, entertainment, or politics, yes, is there an opportunity to talk about these big, important issues that can have, eternal consequences? Obviously abortion. What is the role of religion in society? And so I do think that, the millions of people that are coming, Islamic people are coming into the Western countries like France, England. We're seeing now it's causing a lot of disruption. Now, when you say this, like, oh, is every Muslim bad? I didn't say that, but the thing is, what the globalists want to do is they want to have everyone be mindless consumers, and they don't want you to think about your God, and they don't want you to think about anything,
Level
your
it out.
traditions,
Be
your
the same.
families. They just want you to be a rebel that is all wearing the same Levi denim jeans and Nike shoes. It's all a bunch of crap. So I would like to actually have people to be their own countries. Italy to be for Italians, for French in France. I want England to be different. I want them all to be unique, and that's much more exciting than if they're all just like it's no different than flying from Cincinnati than to Dallas, Texas. Like there should be differences. Now, I would say in politics, yes, there is an opportunity. As you're talking about this stuff, we do see a rise in populism in France, so much so that they made Marine Le Pen, they arrested her,
Yeah,
right.
because they're so afraid that they're going to have this breakout moment where the populist movement in France is going to say, enough of this stuff, enough of this globalism. We want France to be for France first. And I like that. I want them to be French first. And, so I think I do think in talking about these issues, we've unlocked some things here, and I do feel there's a movement afoot, and I think populism is helping on that. I mean, look, I much prefer trying to evangelize in the 2020s with populism here in the United States than to try to evangelize 20 years ago when you had, the Republican Party associated with token support for marriage, but not really, token support for life, but not really touching it that much, and then being dedicated to cutting taxes for corporations and bombing foreign countries in the Middle East. Like that's no recipe for, trying to win over souls to Christ. Like, no, I'm sorry. The neocon stuff, that's a no-go. With populism, we actually overturned Roe v. Wade. Now that's happened. That's unleashed a whole lot of other problems because now we're having to discuss and debate this.
which is good.
But I much prefer that than to sit
better.
twiddling our thumbs and doing nothing.
Right, 100%. I was going to say too, I think that with the populism movement, it's so important, and this is another reason I was so happy to see these numbers. It is so important that as European countries move back towards perhaps patriotism, call it national pride, that there be a rediscovery of the Christian roots of Europe. Because what we don't want to see is nationalism without Christianity, right? Because we know where that goes. We don't want to see, we want globalism to fall. We want the EU. I mean, what a wreck for the people of Europe the EU has been on the whole, for free speech, for freedom of religion, all of it.
Did you see, with Hungary, there's discussion of Hungary and
Ceausescu,
a few other countries to kind of create their own
league, kind of.
Right, of Christian countries.
Interesting.
Was it Romania and Hungary and stuff? I forget what the name of the country. So this could be, again, where just having that kind of leadership could draw other countries to think, hey, well.
Right. Christian nationalism, yes. Post-Christian nationalism, no.
I still have not gotten a good definition of Christian nationalism. I still think it's
that's because Pogo, you are the embodiment. You are the embodiment
of Christian nationalism.
So it's hard.
I just think everyone disagrees on it. It's the same thing with populism too. Like everyone has a different definition of populism.
Yeah.
Like some would just characterize it as a distaste
it's a big
for
tent.
the elites.
It's a big tent.
So yeah, it's a big tent, but I think potentially what you're getting at, Josh, is that France obviously has Christian roots. There's no
daughter of the church
debate. Right. It was one of the crown jewels of the church. So it really is just
the saints.
I think to Erika's point, like if you just discover a really angry version of it that doesn't have any like ethical or moral framework to it, yeah, you're capable of terrible things. I mean, go ahead and take a look at Germany. But Germany had Christian roots as well prior to all of that. So
but they had so abandoned it by the time of the 1920s and 30s. I mean, you think back to all through the 1800s with the Romantic movement, that was already cutting off the source of Christianity and running on its fumes. Right. It was a bouquet of flowers that was plucked long ago and was dead.
Which is why I think we're having this clash of civilizations. When you bring in millions of people from the Islamic world, it's making the people in the West saying, wait, my parents and grandparents rejected the Christian roots of my country, France or England or whatever. Like, let me rediscover that. Let me think about this, because are we not setting ourselves? I mean, like, I think, sort of like this, not like necessarily aggressive atheist, but sort of this sort of secular
humanist,
which is like, value neutral.
It's consequential. It's consequentialism.
Right.
My preference is over yours.
It has no ability. It can't withstand a frontal assault by,
Right.
or even a secondary assault by Islam.
Right.
And so they're left spinning their wheels, like, oh, well, we all believe, obviously, in free expression and free exchange of ideas. These Islam
Well, and
coming into Europe, like, yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah, then you get guys like Dawkins coming out and saying, the new atheist Dawkins of New Atheism fame, coming out and saying, oh gosh, I actually like my churches at Christmas time with Christmas carols. I'm a cultural Christian. And you're like, dude, you've spent your entire life dismantling anything that could have defended your cultural Christianity. And now you have videos of Islamic groups in the UK going into churches, buying them up, and then doing the call to prayer in these traditional Christian spaces. So like you said, Josh, it can't withstand that frontal assault. So thank God some of the youths, yes, Pogo, I am praising Gen Z here, they're waking up to that, and like, let's rediscover who were the people who, fended off the Vandals, who were these people who fended off at the Battle of Vienna, the Ottoman Turks. Like, let's rediscover that strength and
before it's too late.
Find it's in Christ. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did want to take all of this because, of course, that's overseas. I wanted to see what was going on in America. And I do have some, obviously, Holy Week activities from the White House. We do talk about politics on here a lot. But I went back to this Pew Religious Landscape Study. It's off-cited at this point, 2023, 2024. And I really dug in. So specifically what we're all talking about is that there is at least a leveling off rather than consistent decline. Since 2007, we've seen a consistent decline in Christianity in the United States. And so we started off at about 78% in 2007 identify as Christian. And so now we are kind of leveling around the 63% number, 62% number. It popped up just a little bit, but that's encouraging. Looking at the statistics specifically for the Catholics here, 62% of adults describe themselves as Christian. Of that makeup, 40% are Protestant, 19% are Catholic, and 3% are other Christians. And so if you look into these spirituality numbers, I think what this suggested to me was there's a lot of fertile ground for the kind of evangelization we're potentially seeing in France. 86% of people believe that we have a soul or spirit in addition to their physical body. 83% believe in God or a universal spirit. 79% believe there's something spiritual beyond the natural world, and 70% believe in heaven, hell, or both. So clearly, there's building block.
That number gets to 100% upon death, by the way.
We're all Catholics when we die.
But I think back to I was really digging into those French numbers and like why. There's going to be a lot of explanations that come out after seeing that report, but why specifically 18 to 25, that age range, are really gravitating towards Orthodox Catholicism in France? And then how can we adopt some of those techniques here in America to actually serve and reach that same cohort in America? Because clearly there's something fertile about that age group in France. I know personally, just anecdotally through people that I'm around, it's the same around here. I see tons of 18 to 25 year olds. I'm a little bit older than that at this point, but young families having kids, really a part of their parish community that exists. And I like to, dig into why you think that is, but what can we do here?
Well, what we could do is maybe not suppress traditional forms of liturgy that are exciting
and see which one attracts more young people.
Yeah, you guys saw that Atlantic article, right?
Look, I don't even.
Yes.
Like I said, I don't really go to the traditional Latin Mass that much, but I'm a big advocate for it, and I think it's an injustice that has been done against people who love that liturgy, the liturgy of the ages. Frankly, I'd like to see the proliferate, the enhancement of our own. Can
I interrupt you and ask a quick question? Because I feel like we do this every other episode. Like, we obviously all acknowledge you don't even go to Latin Mass, but that something about this Atlantic article profiled it, basically saying there's this split off section of the Catholic Church right now that has to worship in basements and can't do what they were able to do previously under Benedict, who basically opened up that form of liturgy to have no restrictions on it. And so maybe even that you don't go to it, but you acknowledge that it's almost symbolic in terms of church leadership as treating a segment of the faithful in the way that it is, that is going to be discouraging to even people who maybe don't go to that liturgy, but just see the treatment, are confused with kind of this attack on the history and the dogma in a positive sense that really is attractive to people who have been told that nothing really matters their entire lives.
Here on the internet, obviously, we have all these different exchanges, and people talk about the faith or whatever, and people do apologetics where you explain, well, this is actually, no. This is what we think about Mary. And that's all very important work, and it's very good. But I still believe what Pope Benedict said, the two most effective apologia is that, the church has is her saints and their beauty. And so we do have beautiful churches, like at the cathedrals at least, but like the average suburban church looks kind of ugly. And so if we would actually spend some time and make it look nicer, and then you could actually go through the motions like, we need to make this look better. God deserves better. We should worship this. And then people have to open up their wallets and they understand what this is all for. And so it's a lot of help. And then you bring like, have you seen this? This looks beautiful. So it's a way to get people to think, up. These churches that should be built up. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. One of the most beautiful churches in the world is the one that was, Notre Dame, right, in France. And when that happened, it was probably a Muslim guy who set it on fire, right? Probably. And it's this beautiful church, and all the firefighters are like rescuing, like the Eucharist and rescuing the true cross, and all this stuff. And it made people in France and other people around the world go, wait a minute, this could get lost. We just can't count on it being, that church, that cathedral's there whenever I need it on my time. And we suddenly realize, wait a minute, what if there's a world in which that's not there? And so people start to have a little bit more appreciation of it. Yeah. So that's one element. Obviously, beauty isn't just in the buildings, which is a beautiful thing. I'm not trying to downplay it. It's also in the liturgy. And as a Gen X kid, I had never had, the Latin Mass was done with in 1970, 7 years before I was born. So it was never part of my experience. I always had the Novus Ordo. I always had I would call it the bland. It's like
the guitar mass.
It's oatmeal. It's nothing special, And then like Christmas would come along and you're like, whoa, this is nice. It's like Christmas was the one time in the Novus Ordo where it was like, you got the songs that are hundreds of years old because at least you're like, no, you got to play the stuff that we like. But the rest of the year, the other 46 weeks of the year or whatever, it's all this St. Louis Jesuit music. It's just crap. It's syrupy James Taylor.
The Haagen-Dazs Mass.
Go to sleep. It's absolutely asinine. So it was the hope of Pope Benedict that the Latin Mass would have the ability to, like, if that was your thing, go for it. Enjoy it. That is a good thing.
Right.
But it was also the hope that people go, gosh, this is really nourishing and rich. It's like OG. It's original stuff. It's the good food. And people are like, wow, I like that organic, real good stuff over here. Maybe we should make our, normal English Mass like less crappy. Mm-hmm. Like maybe, step up the game a little bit. The only place I ever saw it really nice and reverent actually was St. Mary's in New Haven, where the Dominicans were there and they had a beautiful English Mass. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Now I got to shut that down, of course. I love this church. The more you love it, the more they hate you.
Yes.
Erika, you've had some
I think the Novus Ordo, it can be done beautifully. And the point of the Atlantic article, from a secular point of view, to see someone from the outside looking at what the current policies coming from Rome have done to the Latin Mass community, that somehow the intention was, at least the intention as explained to us by the National Catholic Reporter, was that, Pope Francis just wants us all to unite and all have the same common liturgy and the same religion and be more just unified, unity. It's had the opposite effect, right? It's had those policies.
It's made it much worse. It wasn't even I feel like it wasn't even really a rift before this.
It's created a margin where Pope Benedict had healed marginalized. Like, it's doing what Francis, the opposite of what it seems he wanted to do with it. And that could be for a variety of reasons. I'm not placing all the blame on him, but it has had the opposite effect.
I don't know. Buck stops there.
It does.
There's no question it was a mistake.
It was wrong.
But if we move to the United States, so I mean, I'll always remember where I was. I think I was at my in-laws, and I was reading that it was a transgender day of visibility from
It
our
was a year
previous
ago.
Catholic president a year
We
ago, and
covered it.
just like thinking it was a joke or a meme or something, but no, it's from the president account. We get a very nice message from President Trump this time, so I'll share that. This Holy Week, Christians around the world remember the crucifixion of God's only begotten Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And on Easter Sunday, we celebrate his glorious resurrection and proclaim, as Christians have done for nearly 2,000 years, he is risen. Through the pain and sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, we saw God's boundless love and devotion to all humanity. And in that moment, his resurrection, history was forever changed with the promise of everlasting life. And as we approach this joyous Easter season, I want to wish all Christians everywhere a happy and very blessed holiday. America is a nation of believers. We need God. We want God. And with his help, we will make our nation stronger, safer, greater, more prosperous, and more united than ever before. Thank you and happy Easter.
Talk about a sea change, a 180 from last year. This is great.
And
I
we're
love
going
the
to
sense,
see.
though, when Biden did that last year. It's like, well, the transgender day of visibility is always on the 31st of March. It just so happened to coincide with Easter.
No, you just
Okay,
made
well,
it up.
if it does, then just don't do it this year because of Easter. My goodness.
Yeah, for
That
those
was last
forgetting what that
Easter.
looked like.
Yep, little visual side by
Jeez,
side,
man.
before and after.
There's just so much about the. He was the second Catholic president, and there's just so much that you just really, it's hard to even. I don't even like.
Have we really had a Catholic president?
Yeah,
he
seriously.
he has such major Father Elijah vibes, like not Father Elijah, but the bad guy in there. It was just so bad. Did anyone read that? Michael O'Brien, Father Elijah. It was like big when I was in high school. Anyway,
but I just assume
Antichrist.
that's like an academic smart person reference that Erika that just goes over my head. But it's probably
that's like pop
literature.
So. But you're just too young. You're just little baby pogo. I was saying that's all for all my millennial moms out there.
Yeah, shout out to millennial moms out there for real.
Yeah.
But we're also going to see they're going to do a Holy Week proclamation presidential video. I think on today they're going to do this. They're going to do a pre-Easter dinner and White House staff Easter service. I was looking that up. I don't think they did that under the Biden administration. I was trying to research. I did not see anything about Easter service. They do like the roll thing.
Two dudes, one time.
I think they were like
that was when he was vice president.
Men. They were topless trans men in the Rose Garden.
Yeah, that's right.
That was Karine Jean-Pierre was like, "Yay, this is my religion."
What a time to
So anytime that Trump does something that's like not like perfectly presidentially classy, it's perfect because we're like, oh, really? Like we want to talk about bringing decency and dignity back.
Well, that was his whole campaign pledge. Was I'm going to bring decency back to the White House, and I have never forgotten that statement.
Yeah, the wavy hair and like the nails that are like.
Someone screenshot that of Mercer. Nailed it.
Yeah.
We need a side-by-side of that and the White House intern. But also we saw Pope Francis. Really nice to see him out, 88-year-old pontiff.
Out and about in the wheelchair.
St. Peter's said have a good Palm Sunday, a good Holy Week, more than 20,000 there with him. So yeah, pray for Pope Francis. It's nice to see a little bit of recovery. He still definitely looks like exhausted. I know it was a very brief address. Yeah. So
and he is 88 years old. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, maybe as we move forward as a church, maybe all the conservatives are upset with this pontificate and blame Pope Benedict for not staying on. Why did you quit? Maybe actually the answer is this 75-year-old automatic retirement for bishops should be applied to popes too. Like, because I mean, otherwise we're living longer and longer all the time. Like, do we want a 101-year-old pope? I mean, is it really the best answer?
Well, don't we term out cardinals at 75? I mean, not term.
That's exactly what
he's talking about. Yeah.
Well, cardinals are still able to vote in the conclave till they're 80, but like, if you're the bishop of a see at 75, whether you're bishop or archbishop,
like Archbishop Naumann,
mandatory retirement. Which, hey, if it's good for you, why not for the Bishop of Rome? And I mean that for all. I'm not trying to. Yeah. It's not like this person, but we are getting to a situation where, like people are living a lot longer. I mean, it's good that Francis is recovered from this, but he's still 88 years old, and that's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. So the question is, as the church moves forward, is that something that now, of course, that's the thing. How do you implement it? How do you enforce it or whatever? But it has to become a custom that people start to recognize. But maybe Pope Benedict had the right idea all along.
How was the cardinal thing implemented? Was that just an update through a council or something like that? I don't
No,
know.
I mean the Pope. The Pope. I think it was Pope John Paul II limited, at the age of 80 for where you could vote in the conclave.
So just from the top, he's just like, this is how it's going to be now. Okay.
Yeah.
So you need a pope.
Age.
Basically.
I think Pope Paul did that. I think it was Pope Paul VI who made it that you automatically retire at 75, if I remember correctly.
Interesting. So,
again,
like an executive order from a pope.
Well, and actually, by the way, while we're at it, I think we should have that in the United States of America. I think our Constitution should have age limits.
Oh, certainly.
25.
100%.
You have to be 25, 30, and 35 to be an office holder in the House, Senate, or the White House. Why don't we, like all three of them and the Supreme Court, 80 is enough, dude.
Yes.
We don't need,
you have
80
served
years
your
old,
country
enjoy
well,
retirement.
It's not time to leave.
Trump's in his 80s.
That's fine. I don't mind. He can also stop at 80. But
yeah, I'd be willing to make the trade. Yeah,
control.
Grandfather it out.
Literally,
I agree. Wait, where are we at on why is
great grandfather it out?
Why is Easter Monday not a holiday in America, or at least not a?
It is at the Knights of Columbus. It's pretty great.
Well, it should be at the Knights of Columbus, but like other countries, I think like Australia has Easter Monday as a federal holiday.
Well, at least here at Catholic Vote, we have Good Friday as a full day off.
Yeah, it should be everywhere. Hey, we got a listener question specifically on Easter. I thought it'd be fun to talk about. So shout out to Samantha. My husband and I listen to every episode of the show, recommended to all our Catholic friends. Thank you. We love your insights and even hosted a watch party of your election night coverage at our house. So thank you for all you do. That was a fun night.
That
was a lot of fun.
Night.
What a time to be alive. Mm-hmm. Do you have any suggestions how to make Easter more exciting than Christmas for your kids? That is a great
question.
Really good question. Thank you, Samantha.
I have an answer.
Thoughts, Josh?
Well, I have to give a shout out to the lady behind Catholic Icing.
Oh, she's great.
So this was 11 years ago. She put together this idea, the story of the Passion Lunch, a symbolic lunch for Good Friday. And our family jumped into this right away. We did it like the first year she did it or whatever. And every year, all of our kids look forward to Holy Week and they look forward to this. And you basically have these, like pretzels. And she has this whole idea of like how you can eat your lunch on Good Friday. And with each thing, we talk about something in the Bible. She's got references for scripture on each of them, so like, for example, the peppermint patties, right? Because it's silver, like the wrapper silver. It's like, so you're talking about how Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. And then like the pretzel rods for, piercing, I think, or is it for the cross? I mean, so all these different things.
Do I see vinegar? Do I see vinegar Lay's chips for vinegar to drink on the cross?
That's right, dude. I'm telling you, man.
This woman's awesome.
The Mercers love their food and they love Jesus. And so you get these together, it's a winner.
Oh,
my kids love it. We never miss it.
All of her stuff is great. Lacey is going to be a saint someday because she has given so much to mothers of young children my whole life.
It's hard to bring them to like Holy Thursday or Good Friday, to bring little kids. Sometimes it's hard to bring them. So you kind of do this thing where I get to go this one, you go to that one, you take some of the older ones.
You're telling me, dude.
Because it's like Thursday, Friday, and then, it's a lot of liturgy for kids to do the whole thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Erika,
I think that, for me, Christmas is like the instant gratification because the American recipe for Christmas, the kids know there's presents coming. There's the one mass that's like an hour and 15 minutes long, maybe max. And there's Christmas carols. So everyone's saying, so that's kind of like locked and loaded for parents of young children. I see the preparation for the Triduum with my family. It's become more of like, that's our long-term investment. And as a family, as we build these traditions, like Josh mentioned, the lunch that they do, in our house, over the years, this wasn't like all the first year we had a baby, we added all the stuff in, but like over the years, we've managed to add so many traditions just in our own home for the domestic church that we have here, that the kids start to anticipate that as they grow older, to the point that now the teens will be talking, and that one of their favorite, they do like, what's your favorite, play what's your favorite games in the car or something. And they'll be like, what's your favorite, Christmas or Easter? And more as they get older, it is Easter, because it's like a 3-week thing. We veil all of our statues for the 5th week of Lent. So the whole house kind of goes dark. Then we've got on Palm Sunday, we'll bring in whatever's flowering outside and decorate for one day. Then that all goes away. And then Holy Thursday, we started doing this thing that the kids look forward to. We make a string, and we just I cut up strips of paper. And I asked the kids on Holy Thursday to write the name of every priest in their life who has ever done anything for them. So they have to write down the priest who baptized them, a priest whose homily they remember, our pastor, and we hang it up over our fireplace. And on Holy Thursday, because it's the institution of the priesthood, we pray for all the priests in our lives by name. It's a pretty long list by now, praise God. And so little things like that I've picked up over the last 20 years of parenting. Oh my gosh, she's going to turn 20 this spring. I can't believe it. It was more of a long-term buildup to the point that now I love Easter in our home. So even the years that we have a kid with a fever, I can't even count how many. Like last year we had a newborn baby, so I didn't make it to anything but Easter Sunday Mass. So even the years that we can't participate in the church's liturgy, which if you can, you should, but when you can't, there's that richness in the home. So Christmas, pretty simple, cut and paste the recipe. The kids are going to love it. Easter, look at that as your family's long-term investment over the years, but add one thing every year. And eventually you'll be old like me, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I have all these traditions. This is so great.
Right. Because you have, 2 Sundays, there's the Easter Sunday, and then a week later, Low Sunday, which I celebrate with, because that's when.
Or Divine Mercy Sunday, Josh, as it is colloquially known.
When St. Thomas, digs in,
and
are you really Jesus?
Sees the image of the Divine Mercy.
Okay, wait.
Our family has ribs that day.
Oh, I love
nice.
it. Ribs, because they stick the finger in the ribs.
Come on.
I'm starting that. New tradition in the Ahern house.
All right.
Low Sunday,
Friday,
ribs.
Friday. We have Meat Lovers Pizza on the Friday after Easter.
Nice. But before we go any further, we're getting some great suggestions in the chat. And then if you're watching this after the fact, drop them in the comments on YouTube. We can crowdsource some great Easter traditions for people. Mm-hmm. And I will say, these are great. I like everything that's said, because it might seem silly or something to an adult, but I feel like it actually is really hard to get kids to get anything sometimes. And so even if it is small or simple, or you just look forward to it every year, that's how you kind of build the bank of traditions that
100%.
At least is on the mind of a child.
It's repetition.
At least. So even if it doesn't feel like you're I'm not doing that much, and that's super theologically dense or whatever, it's that actually is kind of what I look back on. I'm oh, this is sweet. I really respect my mom. Shout out to my mom. She did a Seder meal one year. I think it was lamb.
Yeah, we did that a couple of years for Holy
That
Thursday.
I respect for doing the lamb. That was tough, but I remember that one. Non-traditional at all, but if you just want to have outrageous fun. Egg wars. I don't know if anyone does egg wars out there, but you boil eggs. And then
not this economy.
Yeah, exactly. Eggs are tough. This is a luxury activity.
If you own a chicken farm, you can do this.
I did this for every Easter for most of my life. You boil eggs, you name them. So you name everyone's egg. And then when you arrived at Easter, the party after church, you would hide them everywhere. Everyone had to find their egg. When you found their egg, it was a tournament where someone would hold their egg like this, and then someone would knock it on top of it. So the tip of one egg would hit the tip of the other egg, and one tip gets crushed and the other stays solid. And if you get crushed, you have 2 sides. So you're still in if you get crushed on one side.
This is a cool boy household thing.
Oh, the whole every age, everyone was doing this. 5-year-olds are doing it, 80-year-olds are doing it. You go around until there's one person standing with one of their sides intact. That person wins the egg war. I don't even know if you win anything. Outrageous fun. It's like March Madness, but for
I'm going to try that. Yeah.
Not theological rights. And I'm someone who on record.
You should get a jacket eggshell cover.
Yeah, that'd be sick. I'm all for celebration, making fun. I think the Easter Bunny's dumb. Who came up with it? Never stuck. Never believed it. I don't even think there was a real attempt of my parents to make me believe it. Who really? That's one I'm I get Santa.
No.
Easter Bunny, what are we doing here? But you can at least see why people are okay.
St. Nicholas, I get it.
Sure. But Easter Bunny, where did that come from? Polish tradition. Someone's telling me it's Polish. Someone in the chat explained to me. I don't understand how we've evolved or devolved to where we are on the Easter Bunny. All right, like I'm out of the Easter
I
Bunny.
think she's saying the Polish tradition on the eggs, right?
Oh, the eggs? Oh, okay,
yeah.
sick.
I think the eggs are Polish and the Easter Bunny's not.
Shout out to the
Polish.
Polacks. Yeah,
I think
someone
it's
figure out
German.
what's going on
I
with
think
the
it's
Easter Bunny.
German. I'm going to look it up.
Anyway, before we get into our next section, because we can't just have fun on here, we need to deliver some information as well. We got to figure out whether or not Erika is going to be able to vote after the SAVE Act. But before we do that, we got to talk about home title lock. So did you know that American homeowners have over $32 trillion in equity, and criminals are targeting it with a growing scam the FBI calls house stealing? Scammers can transfer your title out of your name using a one-page document they file at the county. Then they can take out loans against it or even sell it behind your back. And the scariest part, you won't find out until collection or foreclosure notices start arriving in your mailbox, leaving you with financial and legal nightmare. The best way to protect your equity is with Home Title Lock's exclusive $1 million triple lock protection. This service offers 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, and if fraud should occur, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title. So when's the last time you checked on your title? If you're like me, the answer is never, and that's exactly what scammers are counting on. Good news is we've partnered with Home Title Lock to offer you 30% off their services. So go to HometitleLock.com/LOOPcast to save 30%, and you'll also get a free title history report to ensure that you're not already a victim. And make sure you check out the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there. So click on the link in the description below. That is HometitleLock/LOOPcast. Thank you, Home Title Lock, for making this show possible. Okay.
Boom.
Before we figure out if Erika can vote, we have a few tariff updates, okay? Tariff updates in a Cato poll. So over the weekend, China has raised their tariffs on the United States to 125%. And on Sunday, they paused exports of rare earth minerals and magnets. We've kind of talked about this. The Sunday thing is new as they have just completely paused these exports. And it's important because they produce about, I think I've seen like 80-90% of these rare earth minerals. We're talking about things needed for chips, semiconductors, batteries, and cars. So that's been the response from China over the weekend as well. We got a clarification from the White House on exemptions from the China reciprocal tariffs. So it itemized 20 categories of electronic products not subject to these levies. So Apple can sigh a sigh of relief, if you will.
Not to the exceptional ones of 125, but they still have an
correct.
Import tariff.
They will still
Like
have a 10% blanket tariff, and there's a 20% tariff on all Chinese goods that preceded these reciprocal tariffs. So essentially, this is going to be temporary. We'll give a little bit of relief to the Apples of the world, but these will come back. We need to figure it out. Why is that, Josh?
I mean, just logistically, it would take a couple of years, they think, to be able to get the personal electronics up and running in another country, and so therefore, you have to. There has to be time. Space. Like there's just not. It's not as easy as shoe factory. Let's go somewhere else or something like that. To get so that you can produce iPhones in another place. It's a lot more technological stuff than just simply, light machinery or whatever.
Yeah. And I'd say above all of this, I was just curious how the American people were responding to this. And we have some early polling. Again, I want to emphasize early. It happened over the weekend on CBS as to, do America see the plan? Do they support this? Are they getting yippee? As Trump would have said. But before we get into that, it looks like a really encouraging news. We got an NVIDIA plant. Let me zoom in here. For the first time, NVIDIA's AI supercomputers will be built entirely in the U.S., working with leading manufacturing partners to design and build factories. Production has also started for NVIDIA Blackwell chips at the TSMC's chip plants in Arizona. So, if nothing else, that is a really encouraging sign as to businesses bringing their business to America to manufacture there, one of the main goals of the tariffs. So, really cool seeing that. But I did want to take a look at some polling. So, I have some screenshots arranged. So at this point, CBS poll, new U.S. tariffs on imported goods. We have 42% favor these tariffs and 58% oppose these tariffs. Again, this is according to a YouGov CBS poll taken over the weekend. When Trump puts new tariffs on goods, he intends to 59% say use them for negotiation and remove them later. 41% say keep them on permanently. So I will say, just as an observer, that is a really positive sign that the messaging from the White House has been, listen, this isn't a long-term proposal. This is used as negotiation leverage, which we clearly saw weaponized against China. So that message has been getting to the American people, according to this poll. Mm-hmm. Next part, we have approval of Trump's handling of the economy. Number one issue to voters, as I saw in that Cato poll, but I think just generally understood. As of March 2nd, we had 51% approving and then 49% disapproving. That is now at 44% approve and 56% disapprove. So that has gone down. But if you look at Trump's overall job rating, that is 53% in February approve, now at 47% disapprove, the inverse. So 47% approve now, 53% disapprove. Pretty evenly split. I know this is heavy Democrat negative, heavy Republican positive, but it looks like independents have shifted a little bit. Specifically, but the difference between the last two polls was economy versus jobs, which I think is the big question mark now as to whether or not tariffs are going to be impacting people's jobs. Are business going to have to lay off, that kind of thing. So interesting to see the early results. Josh, your thoughts on that in general?
Well, I think obviously that the stock market sell-off that occurred after we put in the tariffs made a lot of independents go, whoa, this doesn't, is this crazy? What's going on with this? I don't know. Ultimately, again, you're doing this in, April, and you don't have a federal election. The midterms aren't going to be for, 18 months or whatever. So this is, if there ever was a time to try it, this is the time to try it, because
Sure.
You have a little bit of time and a runway to see if this kind of works itself out. Like I said before, the hope is that the cost of treasuries would go down. That has actually not happened yet because China's dumping some. The hope is that we can cut spending, hopefully, that's, or at least curtail it with this budget, but Congress didn't. I don't know. It's such a tight margin there that doesn't look like that's good of an option. So the tariffs is really the hammer he's going to have to use to try to realign things. I don't know if will it pay off. We'll see, but
Right.
it wouldn't surprise me, in general. But if it comes down the pike that, well, we're just mostly doing this to get back at China, and China has hurt us, yes, I absolutely think that's a winning political message. So again, the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see how the economy, sorts itself out, in the coming.
Right. And then another number we got this morning was that the White House is now in negotiation with 130 countries. So if you remember Friday, they said they'd heard from 75, and now they're up to 130. And those visits have begun this week at the White House already. So we're getting, I think El Salvador's visiting today. Bukele there, not bringing with him any gang members, hopefully. And I think thinking about it over the weekend, listening to some other, analysts, Orrin Cass, Ross Douthat, they were throwing out a prediction that the Trump tariff, when all is said and done, he's going to take a 10-point hit in overall popularity. That was their prediction. So he's going to go down 10 points in the next, for a total of 10 points from the time he announced it over the course of 4 or 6 weeks. He's going to lose 10 points approval rating, maybe a little more on the economy in particular. But what he's banking on, literally, is that it'll turn around as the results start to come in, and what he's predicting the tariffs will do, like reshoring manufacturing, punishing China, getting these trade deals with other countries in a more fair and balanced way, that will start to bring up his numbers again ahead of the
Because they'll hear
midterm. So,
stories
like
of
Josh said,
factories
we don't
opening
know.
up and stuff like that. That would be
Exactly. Or they'll know people who get jobs in the factories opening up. Be like, oh yeah, my brother is now employed. And so again, it's a gamble. I'm cautiously optimistic that the direction he's taken is good. The U-turn we saw last week a little bit. But
can I bring up the
seen.
least convincing argument I saw for this? So Wall Street Journal over the weekend, here's the headline. The new charge on your bill, ? Call it "This tariff isn't our fault" fee. The surge charges are a way to pass off some tariff costs to customers while pointing the blame at the White House, which I thought was kind of an interesting concept. Right. Like if you see on a receipt at the end, it's going to be Trump fee. This is a family program. I'm not going to go into full detail, but in order to make this case, the Wall Street Journal went and found a, quote, sexual wellness company that I'm not exaggerating. They make self-mutilation toys, and they are all made in China. And
I like tariffs even more.
And they added a Trump tariff surcharge to their product with a little like blonde hair blowing in the wind at the bottom, extra $5. It doesn't cover the full cost, not even close, but it felt better than the pretending everything is fine, coming from Alexandra Fine, the chief executive of this company. These devices are made in southern China, and Fine said she would need to consider raising the tariff surcharge if the Chinese import tariffs remain at 145%. Can I say, tariffs are working phenomenally. This is exactly what I would like to get out of the American
what I
market.
voted for.
This is genius.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trump.
So you can add to the hue and cry. Who will pick our avocados? Who will pick our cotton? And who will manufacture our sex toys? Like, is that what we're saying now?
Yeah.
No, I voted for this one.
Thank you, Trump. What a great case from Wall Street Journal. Like, oh man, who will think of the sex toys from China? Who will do it? What are we gonna do? Oh man, the boss girls. Okay, so
think of all the Chinese who work in those factories making those products for Americans. They just like day after day, they're like, Americans are sick.
Yeah, what a depressing life. Okay, so before we get into that, Erika, I was reliably informed by Eric Swalwell that you're not going to be able to vote because of the SAVE Act.
Yep. Right.
Can you just get into? I mean, you might not be able to vote. So, will you be able to vote? Will you not be able to vote? What's going on with the SAVE Act? What even is the SAVE Act?
Right, women's suffrage is under attack. The SAVE Act.
This is serious, Josh. This is serious.
Okay,
women have suffered long enough. Okay. Stop laughing.
I had friends from grad school flipping out over the weekend because they won't be allowed to vote anymore. So, ladies, here's what's going on. The SAVE Act, which stands for Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. That's cute, right? Chip Roy he's a big proponent of this, but it's basically a bill that will requires states to require all voters to provide proof of U.S. citizenship before casting their ballots. Would also mandate that states purge their voter rolls of illegitimate voters.
Sounds cool
good,
so far.
Right? I mean, that sounds nuts. I can't believe we need a bill to do this, people, but we do now. We do.
I wonder if Americans support this.
Yeah. Thank you, progressives. All right, most Americans, this is another 80-20 issue. We talk about Trump on the 80-20s. 84% of people support requiring photo identification to vote. 83% support providing proof of citizenship when registering to vote for the first time.
Overwhelmingly,
but
by the way,
here's the dark side of the SAVE Act. The liberal media has said reliably, right? The SAVE Act will disenfranchise married women from voting because 80% of married women take their husband's name. Therefore, the name on their their issued ID, their driver's license, is not the same as on their birth certificate. And so they won't be able to prove citizenship. This was a plan all along because Republicans hate married women, right? Because married women, we vote overwhelmingly Republican. It makes no sense whatsoever. But this is the argument. Republicans hate women. So will the SAVE Act really disenfranchise me? No, because the SAVE Act has a specific line instructing states to make reasonable accommodations for people who may have changed their name legally during the course of their adult life. I was trying to remember when I changed my name how hard this was. And it couldn't have been that hard because I couldn't remember any drama that went on with this. So I have my birth certificate with my maiden name. I have my marriage certificate that has my husband's and my name on it. And that's how I got my passport. That's how I get my driver's license. It's not that hard, people. And what an insult to women, that you poor, stupid women. Like the black voters who will be disenfranchised because they can't figure out how to get a driver's license. The poor, stupid married women who took their husband's name won't be able to vote anymore. This is just.
It's almost like they're lying. Here's the thing.
What a use of that. Perfect.
Here is the thing. Democrats don't want voter ID. They don't want you to be needing an ID to vote because they want as many people to lie and cheat and steal the elections. That's what it's about. You start wondering, why is our politics full of such poor arguments like that married women, because of the birth certificates and citizenship, can't be? Really?
This is the worst argument I've heard.
Women have been voting for 100 years, and suddenly they're not going to vote because of the... Okay, sure.
Right, and in states that require ID. Tennessee, Arizona. And nobody has reported like masses of married women, like suffragette, like with their signs being like, I can't vote in Tennessee. It doesn't happen.
I did have a really hilarious conversation with a relative from Illinois where they don't require it. they have a very liberal aunt in their family that they're like, oh, go vote for Aunt Jenny. They're like, they know that she supports no photo ID. And they're like, oh, someone go vote and say they're Aunt Jenny and then vote for Trump, basically. This is so stupid.
My friend, though, he went to go vote in Washington, D.C., and because he was a resident, and he showed his ID, and he's like, you would have thought I was bringing out the sun to a bunch of vampires. Like, yeah, no! No!
Oh, man.
Put that away.
So I'd like to show this video.
It's disenfranchising to prevent people from stealing.
Josh, I'd like to show this video. I think we need to have a conversation about Democrat messaging. Language warning, unfortunately.
Language warning.
Swalwell's count.
He's got to be cool.
Hey, what's happening? You're everywhere, man.
Yeah. What the fuck is going on with the SAVE Act?
Oh, you mean the Save the Republicans Ass Act? It's the only way they can win elections is by making it absolutely impossible for people to vote. The SAVE Act would make it impossible. It'd be a ban on married women from voting. Why? Because it would require you to have your birth certificate to prove who you are to go and vote. Well, married women who change their name, they're not going to have a document that shows that. So
What?
it's crazy. It's just another way.
What is he talking about?
It's a marriage license, brother.
All it does is save.
It's called the marriage license. I have it right over there.
I mean, Ilhan Omar and her brother, they got the marriage certificate. They put it right in.
Whoa, ouch. You had
There's
to
a few.
go there.
Can I bring up a few things? Who sent out the message to Democrats that like we need people to take us seriously? So
we need to drop.
right. We need to
F-bomb.
swear super unnaturally like a 13-year-old learning a word for the first time in everything we do.
The background music, too.
And then also,
Super unnaturally.
dude, you're a congressman. I don't know if he's like off or something here. Put on a tie. Like, what do you? I don't like this.
His Chinese spy probably has this tie.
Fetterman.
I don't like any of this. But like, really, do we really? This is where we're at. This is the like. I would be embarrassed, genuinely embarrassed as a congressman if I was told, "Hey, this is our attack line against the Republicans here on this specific bill. We're going to fearmonger and say women aren't going to be able to vote."
I hate to go to. It's such a cheap rhetorical thing, but it's true. I mean, like the same people like willing to kill babies and encourage children to chop off their genitals are going to say, "Oh, married women won't be able to vote with this bill." Like the Democrats, they're not sending the best. Let me tell you.
Guess not. Okay, Twilight Zone now.
Well, I hate our two-party system. I would love to have two parties. Like I don't even know what this other party is. So out to lunch.
Can we please get two parties
that'd be
back?
nice.
It's a cult.
Okay, Josh. Twilight Zone, you're up first.
Well, CBS News posted a little story here. Did you hear about this? Ancient altar found in the Guatemala jungle, apparently used for sacrifices, especially of children, the archaeologists say. True story.
I'm sorry. I thought. Wait. Can I stop you there? I was reliably informed that the conquistadors that brought Christianity there were the problem.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a no for me, dog.
Okay. Counter narrative here.
One of the archaeologists told the Associated Press this is chilling. The remains of 3 children, not older than 4 years old, were found on 3 sides of the altar. Now, you hear this kind of stuff and you're like, these people are absolute monsters. But of course, the Associated Press has to do, we got to ask all sides. They're neutral. We got to get all sides of the story.
So we have to ask the child sacrificing side of the story?
They did. They asked this archaeologist who was not involved with the project. Her name is Maria Belén Mendez.
Okay.
She said the discovery confirms, quote, there's been an interconnection between both cultures and what the relationship with their gods and celestial bodies was like. And you're like, wait, what? She goes, I mean, it's like, you won't even believe this. She says, we see how the issue of sacrifice exists in both cultures. It was a practice. It's not that they were violent. It was their way of connecting with the celestial bodies. Yeah, it's called Satan.
Non-violent.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
It was child sacrifice, and these people were sacrificing tens of thousands of people every year. Every year. And so then what happens? Cortez comes into town, sees this, and is absolutely horrified and shuts it down and conquers the Aztec. And the thing is, lefties to this day can scratch their heads. They can't figure out, why is it that the other local tribes helped Cortez and his men come into Aztec and defeat this empire? Because they were evil. Okay?
No,
They were the original Planned Parenthood of America.
You're not, Josh. You're not.
100%.
Again, you're not understanding this. She said they were mostly peaceful.
Right.
Like you don't clearly do not possess enough nuance to approach this situation to understand that this actually was just not mostly peaceful religious activity.
When CBS posted this little news story, it conjured a robust discussion in the comments. People were having fun with it. Some of the memes were just unbelievable. Man. Like comparing the Aztec temple
These are good.
to the Planned Parenthood in Houston. You know, it's like looks the same. Mm-hmm. It's like the same temple.
This one's money.
Well, look, here comes the far right conquistadors approach.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm struggling to understand.
Yeah, there's Cortez.
What would qualify.
Love that baby. I love that guy.
Bring it on. I'm struggling to understand what would constitute a violent society. Yeah, there's the Aztec, this temple, and then there's the Planned Parenthood. They look exactly the same. More similarities. They don't stop on the surface there. It's like, what would qualify you as violent besides, murdering up to 8,000?
Erika, we know the answer. We know the answer. Cutting off the genitals of children is not violent.
Nope.
Burning cities to the ground is mostly peaceful. Mostly it's not violent.
Mostly peaceful.
Killing babies in a sacrifice, in an ancient civilization, not violent. What is?
No.
Speaking.
Okay.
Remember?
Well, yeah.
Free speech.
Violence.
Yes, of course.
Violent.
Okay, finally you're coming around to this. Yes, words are violent, Josh. And so is silence. Silence is actually violence as well.
And
so you better watch your
and
mouth.
Speech.
If you talk or don't talk.
Oh, I'm watching my mouth and it's
You're
moving.
I'm honestly disgusted with the intellectual rigor of my co-hosts here. They just cannot see obvious reality of what is peaceful and what is violent. It's pretty clear to me.
Ouch.
Okay. Anyway.
Good
Erika.
Gen Z boy. All right. So I woke up this morning and I was like, I'm tired of reading about tariffs. I'm just going to see what else is going on in the United States of America. There was a crazy essay this morning at Unheard, and we'll put the link in the chat, about San Francisco technoculture. And I dabble in a little chat GPT. I have fun with a little AI once in a while. They helped me plan a really fun day trip to Boston with my kids. It was great. It was really fun. But this is out of control. And the author makes the argument that what we have going on here is not hyper-rationalist, like we've been freed from the shackles of religion. But San Francisco is a cult. It is a cult religion. Talking about some of the main characteristics that he's seeing, he went out there to visit some of his tech bro friends. He stayed in a hacker house, which apparently is a very swanky dig to stay in. A serious interest in life extension. So we talk about our 80-year-old Pope. Josh, we could be looking at 120, 150-year-old, and you're still kicking because you are also partaking in biohacking, which is modifying your biology through various interventions and supplements, and then merging your human cognition as it ages with artificial cognition with brain-computer interfaces.
Cyborg.
So we are looking at, this is a whole group of people in San Francisco who are seeking new bodies, new ways of perceiving things, and new.
There's no way this could go. There's no way this could go wrong, too, right?
What could possibly?
Oh no,
go
this
wrong?
is going to be great. And it was funny too because the author talks about while he was staying in San Francisco researching this article, he took a Waymo around, which is the self-driving car, and he was like, "It is absolutely 100% easy to get sucked into this cult because they pick you up at the hacker house, which is really nice. The little Waymo has like a coffee bar, a little machine. You can even like close your eyes and like close the windows so you don't see as you're driving by all the druggies on the street, all of the homeless people, the less desirable neighborhoods. They dump you right at your wherever hackers work. I don't even know, Sam Altman's compound or something. But this is my favorite part. Then he compares, he says, Bay Area, I grew up in New Hampshire where there were all these Shaker villages. I don't know if people know what those are. Bay Area techno-rationalist culture resembles, and in many ways is, the rebirth of the New England Shakers.
How'd that work
This
out?
19th century sect believed that the end times were imminent and consequently emphasized self-discipline, radical environmental redesign, and withdrawal from the world. Yeah. Techno-rationalists are Shakers without God, or rather, theirs is a God who has yet to be built, but the project is coming along nicely. And then he talks about how
Sorry, can I stop you there? Should I know about Shakers? I've never heard of them.
I mean, they were kind of this like niche New England sect of Puritans that they got rid of marriage and they're not having any children. So
no, they actually said sexual activity was the root of sin, and so none of them, they were all celibate. So
they died out.
I'm really big on recruiting in this religion. To keep going.
And let me tell you, people really like sex and good food and wine and dancing, and the Shakers had none of it. So.
It sounds like a huge bummer. Well, who? That's like the worst cult of all time. No wonder the Shakers didn't last.
Yeah, it is. But that's what like the Sam Altman people are doing. He calls them a priestly class that is self-medicating, self-optimizing, transhumanist class that lives a life of leisure on an automated grid. That is what is coming for us all, and the rest of us.
That's a no for me, dog.
Yeah, don't like that.
That's a no for me, dog, too.
Speaking of, I'm working on nailing Jimmy Akin from Mysterious World down for an interview on.
I am so excited.
On the Dire Wolves.
I love Jimmy Akin.
Listen, I'm interested to hear what he has to say. I dug deeper into the Dire Wolf stuff. The CEO of Colossus, or head scientist, is a movie villain. Like if you're like, oh, these people are probably responsible, whatever. I think she dropped the quote like, "We have a moral obligation to restore species that we were responsible for extincting."
Yes, it's reparations.
I don't like this moral language at all. And they're no. It's
worse than
movie
vegans.
Villain talk. Yeah. Oh, totally. It's like the next evolution of vegans. So I'm curious to see what Jimmy's got to say. But shout out to one of the listeners. Like you got to talk to Jimmy. I was like, I followed him for a while. Definitely got to talk to him a little bit. So we'll see when that one comes out. Okay, Josh. I had another listener submitted Twilight Zone. I think both you and I got to enjoy this one. So a New York Times article came out with a curious picture of my former governor, Josh's current governor, Gretchen Whitmer. If you might notice.
What in the world?
So
she's the photographer and she lifts up her binders.
I wonder what the spin team was on this, because I mean, there's no possible way this is her. She's like, what if I was just like had bad vision and really needed to read something closely?
Okay, so for the audio, she's standing in the Oval Office and she's holding her like folder up in front of her face. Mm-hmm. This is what my toddler does when he does not want me to change his diaper. He's like, I have to hide from mom. So he takes a book and like puts it in front of his eyes and he's like, Mom can't see me anymore. I'm not here.
It didn't work.
Oh my gosh.
So she's blocking her face. A New York Times photographer caught her in the Oval Office. Now, hilarious backstory on this. She went to the White House basically to try to talk to him about relief funding for Michigan residents who were hit by the recent ice storms, including Josh. So maybe she's there to help you out, Josh. And I also talked about some environmental things. I think they were talking about like invasive species and stuff like that. So, funding for a Detroit area Air National Guard base. I'm pretty sure I grew up pretty close to that Air National Guard base. If it's Selfridge, I'm pretty sure it might be Selfridge, which anyway, so they're having that conversation. But she wanted a private meeting with the president. And then as soon as she showed up, she was quickly ushered into the Oval Office in front of cameras.
Pure oppressor.
And so, so she got outed pretty quickly of like, oh, I'm here hat in hand. I don't want to be associated with the president, but I do want his help and money. So nice try, Gretchen Whitmer. Gotcha. So someone posted this picture. I think it was Daily Caller. Used AI on this one. It's where's Whitmer? And it's her blocking her face. Oh man, she's
well, and Trump did
for
it on
sure.
purpose too, because I think part of the way through the presser, a reporter asked him a question about tariffs or something, and he's like, "Well, I don't know, Governor Whitmer, what do you think about tariffs?" So the cameras all turn to her, and she's like, "I think they could work."
Which in Detroit, she has to say that because of the automotive, right?
She'd get murdered if she didn't say that. Yeah,
down.
like
Yep.
she would get.
She had no
she would never no political future if she did not support Tariff. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah, she's been kind of on a run of some questionable political optics of like feeding a YouTuber a Dorito like the Eucharist, and now toddler hiding.
Not
her
a
face
good,
into
not a good stretch here for Michigan Democrats, because Pete Buttigieg now is a Michigan Democrat. He decided he's not going to run for office, and Gretchen's not going to run, and so like the Chuck Schumer's like trying to find a Democrat to run for the Senate out of Michigan, and like his first three choices have all said no.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully they run nobody.
Come on, Chuck.
I'm so tired of Michigan getting screwed over by some of these Democrats, man. Anyway, that's what I got for today. So just some show notes here. We are not going to be doing a show on Good Friday for obvious reasons. So hopefully you guys all have a wonderful, holy week. You can spend it with your families, be focused on what's really important here. So we will have a show on Wednesday, and then we will have a show on that Monday for you guys as well. I think I'll be out, but I will have a replacement. So no show on Friday again. But yes, please enjoy that with your families. It's going to be a really awesome Holy Week this year. So if you want to support the show, go ahead and subscribe over on YouTube. It's the best place to find us. We're going to be putting some new content up there very soon. Join the Champions Club. It's the best way to support us. Thank you to all our champions listening today. And the people joining us live here on YouTube, 11 a.m. Eastern time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you want to join the live crew, we got a lively bunch in there. Appreciate you guys. So if you want to check out our sponsors, University of Dallas and Home Title Lock, thank you to them for making the show possible. And pray for us, of course. St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe, and St. Fidelis, pray for us.